This episode 3 is part 2 of your initial estimations viability. So candidates, political activists, elected officials, is your campaign or candidacy viable? In other words, what degree of potential victory or success? The importance of viability cannot be understated. Welcome to the Art of Democracy, episode 3, initial estimations, part 2, viability. Basically, viability is a subject that completes your work on your initial estimation. From a consultant's perspective, we would have a basic determinations if we will or will not work with the campaign. 2, a degree of viability by which is directly connected to how much work will be required to do in order to win. And if you're the candidate, clearly you would have just completed a baptismal by fire after the vetting interview. While the candidate is not necessarily included in the vetting or viability process, the candidate should understand how the viability was determined. They should be active and ask. There's no right or wrong here, just a process that they deserve to know and understand, because regardless of the outcome, this is a valuable knowledge for everyone invested. For example, in the political campaign, is the competition the 800-pound gorilla, or are we? I'm not fazed by that term as I first heard it in the 1980s. To me, it's a reference to the size and power of a candidate. Size, strength, and funding, name recognition, and popularity. It does not change anything. With any luck, you would have completed watching the vetting process or the vetting episode 2. The basics. The nuts and bolts, the strategic planning. Before we get started, you need to know that from a consultant's perspective, while some of the episode deals in some structure, a lot of it is based upon my experience, instinctive, or possibly even mystic in fully making a conclusion. Okay, I'm not a wizard and it's not mystic. But so be prepared to think outside the box and wear the candidate's shoes for a bit. I mean, they are usually not included after the interviews and are completed. Therefore, on a subject matter that is so important to the client, it would be irresponsible to not inform them and be prepared to offer the conclusion and your methodology. So let's talk about financial viability first. The last episode of vetting is basically the foundational process or reference point. So if you have not seen that viability episode, it would help you to do so, because we will need it from here out. The determining factors here were covered in the vetting episode: the foundational questions, the pre-interview requirements, and the campaign structure. So let's get ourselves grounded. Keep in mind that I have an upcoming episode on fundraising. It's different than financial viability. This section will cover where the candidate stands before we begin. The fundraising episode will be more directed to how the candidate will get there. Although annually I just do this without thinking. For this episode, I'll try to put this together as a formula or structured format that might make sense, hopefully. Number 1, I run various district level counts from the number of high propensities to the number of voters or likely voters. Of course, I season these reports with unique flavor of the candidate. In other words, expanded on the elements such as ethnicity, age, gender, or political philosophy, etc. My first report is called a cross-tabulated report, or sometimes referred to as a two-dimensional count book. Second, I then develop a budget based upon the district's numbers. Third, I extrapolate from the vetting questionnaire the best I can determine in regards to the financial investment and the time that will take for me to build this campaign, total number of friends, associates, etc. And finally, I present the client with a 3-tier option, regardless of the candidate's potential. Now, 1, a winning budget, the highest overall cost to the campaign, but I can almost guarantee a win. They are referred to as a Tier 1 candidate. 2, a 50% possibility of winning or losing budget, referred to as a Tier 2 candidate. And third, finally, if either of the two aren't selected, then we go to a budget in terms of providing various products to the candidate. We call those a Tier 3 campaign. From here, the candidate responses help me in determining their financial viability is. Kind of, sort of, maybe in a little way. So I make no judgment or conclusion on their overall financial viability. For me, it's just how much work will I be required to do, how much planning, and how much execution. You need to know that the candidate financial viability is not just the capability of meeting the necessary budget, but also knowing and believing that the candidate is ready and willing to challenge themselves on this area, or not. So before I move on, allow me to share with you a little. So my favorite candidates are those that are new to the political scene. It seems that they are those who are the ones that want to change the world. And that energy is uplifting and healing to me. Now, let's move on to the political viability. We are outside the money range now. There is an old saying that says, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog that will determine the winner. All the answers here come from the vetting interview. The candidate may be funded, connected socially and politically. They may have the knowledge of the goal. The most difficult thing in determining a new candidate viability is their character, and that takes time. What I look for most is if they have heart. You see, a political campaign can be spiritually, emotionally, and physically difficult and draining. A seasoned or a second-time candidate knows all the ups and downs, the highs and the lows. So they enter the campaign prepared and ready. They usually simply seek guidance or a consultant. For the others, I try to repair them for all the negatives as well as the positives and how to use both in their favor. The difficulty in preparing a candidate can be the difference between day and night. So determining the candidate's political viability will take some work and patience on your part, whether you're the consultant or the candidate. Conclusion. Financial viability is somewhat structured and is a portion derived from the vetting and a portion from external district analysis. To put things in perspective, it usually takes me 2 to 4 hours to do a district report, then another 2 to 4 hours to build a comprehensive budget and create a presentation to the candidate. Their political viability is far more abstract and difficult to understand, which is a good thing because it takes time, as its value and development is far more long-term during the campaign and beyond. Don't be surprised if the effort changes the candidate long-term. Well, we know I always hope that it is for the better. One last thing. The overall probability of electability, if it's greater than 70%, you all need to know that I have seen candidates and be victorious with a probability of 25%. So go figure. The point is that you never really know. There's no definitive answer. I think we are done with this one. The next episode will be on intelligence. I'll see you there. If you think that this episode is for you, then hit the subscribe, the like, and notification to be kept informed on my new episodes. Oh yeah, and please feel free to buy me a cup of coffee. It'll help keep me encouraged to keep these episodes coming. Thanks for joining me. A su servicio, at your service, Chester Lantes. See you next episode.